So today I'll be presenting a case of a patient with an ankle defect. So it's a case of a 20-year-old male who had a history of RTA 2 weeks back. He was initially treated at the time of an RTA at a local hospital where he was diagnosed to have a tibia and a femur fracture. He was put on a calcaneal traction device and he was referred 2 days later to our hospital. He was then taken up for fixation of the tibia and the femur fracture with intramedullary nailing by our orthopedics team. Then following which, at the time of this procedure, we were consulted for a wound on the posterior aspect of the right ankle, posterior and medial aspect of the right ankle. So initially a debridement was done, following which negative pressure wound therapy dressing was applied, and he was evaluated on a later date. He doesn't give any history of paresthesia, any history of profuse bleeding, no impaired ankle or toe movements, and he doesn't give any. He gives history of aggravated pain on attempted movement of the ankle. This is the defect that we could see 2 weeks after the injury. This was for which the patient was referred to us. So the patient had a defect on the posterior and medial aspect of the right ankle, with which the examination part of which I'll be talking about later. So coming to the past history, the patient does not have any history of comorbidities. He underwent intramedullary nailing by our orthopedics department for the femur and tibia fracture. Coming to general physical examination, vitals were stable. There's no evidence of pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, lymphadenopathy, or edema. Coming to local examination of the right lower limb, on inspection, the patient had a 5 into 3 centimeter wound present over the posterior and medial aspect of the right ankle. There's no evidence of any slough or discharge. Edges appeared punched out, and the base appeared to have the tendo Achilles, which was partially cut, was visible at the base, and areas of healthy granulation tissue was noted around. Surrounding skin, there was no evidence of any edema or erythema. There were multiple abrasions on the anterior, on the dorsal aspect of the foot, and a sutured wound was noted on the medial aspect of the foot. Coming to palpation, the inspection findings were confirmed on palpation. There was minimal tenderness surrounding the wound. There was no evidence of local rise of temperature, no edema. The base on palpation appeared to have a partially cut tendo Achilles with the calcaneum, the proximal aspect of the calcaneum could be palpated at the lower aspect of the wound. Peripheral pulses could be were palpable. Individually, the dorsalis pedis and posterior tibial artery were occluded, and the other artery was checked to check the flow of the artery, and they were individually palpable. There was no evidence of sensory loss on the foot. And toe movements were found to be normal, but the ankle movement was painfully restricted because of the wound. So we did a Doppler examination to evaluate the dorsalis pedis and posterior tibial artery, even though we confirmed it on palpation, just for confirmatory purposes. Coming to examination of the donor sites, there were no scars noted on the medial, posterior, or lateral aspect of the entire leg. So coming to the diagnosis, my diagnosis would be a post-traumatic defect on the posterior aspect of the right ankle with the partial injury of the tendo Achilles. So should I continue?
Satish sir, you have any questions for this point?
Yeah. Do you have any X-rays to share?
Yes, sir. So we took an X-ray of the foot when we have an X-ray from when the patient was referred to a hospital before the orthopedic procedure with the calcaneal traction device. And there were no fractures noted on the foot.
Okay.
With the X-ray.
So, and just a question. When he had the original injury, did he have a laceration in this particular area which was sutured?
It was not sutured, so it was basically open wound that we were initially called introp for evaluation of the wound itself. It wasn't a sutured wound.
Okay. And the calcaneal pin, did it go through this particular wound, or was it
no, sir, it was below the
through intact skin, below that?
Through intact skin, sir. Through intact skin.
Okay. Right. And from what we can see here, the fibula doesn't seem to be broken. Is there any fracture further up?
No, sir. Only the tibia. No, sir. Only a tibial and a femur fracture was identified.
Okay.
For which they put an intramedullary nail.
Okay. And some abrasions were seen, I thought, on the posterior aspect of the calf in one of the pictures. Is that
yes, sir.
Something?
There's a small healed abrasion on the posterior
where the hand is? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Superficial. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Not like any degloving or anything major
no.
happening there. Sure.
No, sir. No.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
For investigation purposes, an X-ray of the foot to rule out any fractures, and routine investigations for fitness for surgery.
Sure.
So coming to the treatment, it's a 2-week-old injury. So I would like to do a tendo-Achilles repair, since there was a partial injury to the tendo-Achilles, and followed by a soft tissue cover for the defect itself. My options for a soft tissue cover would either be a reverse sural artery flap, which I would choose as the first option. Second would be a peroneus brevis muscle flap, and third option would be a propeller flap based on the posterior tibial perforators. So the planning of the flap.
Yeah, the tendo-Achilles, what percentage do you think, based on your examination, is intact?
So it seemed like it was less than 50%.
Okay. And where the ends there, how healthy were the ends? Do you think you'll be able to get a direct repair, or would you likely need graft?
We could do a direct repair in this particular patient.
Sure. Right.
So my first option would be a reverse sural artery flap. Basically, so I would the axis of the flap would be the most reliable perforator in this case would be approximately 5 centimeters above the proximal to the medial malleolus. So the axis of the flap would be from this this point to midpoint of the popliteal fossa, that is the inferior angle of the popliteal fossa. So I would like to plan the flap in reverse, basically take a template of the defect itself. And in this template, I would like to also include a tail so that it gives me so that the gap between the most reliable perforator and the defect can be used. That also is included in the template, so that based on the template that I've created, on this axis I would plan my flap. So it's a 5 into 3 centimeter defect. I would like to take a little extra tissue when I'm raising the flap. So I would at least take 6 into 4 centimeter flap itself, and the paddle for the bridge. So this paddle, either I would incise this. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that the wound is on the medial side of the foot.
Medial side, yes, sir.
Okay, and what we are seeing here in this diagram, that toe that is sticking out is the big toe, I presume.
Yes, it's actually in the diagram it's a left foot, but it's a right foot defect.
Okay. And we're talking about an RSA. And I did
Yes, sir.
think you mentioned medial malleolus.
Yes, sir.
Are you okay with all that?
Shravan,
Yes,
can you just have
since
that? Can you just have the picture, please, Shravan?
yes, sir. So we've evaluated the peripheral vascularity as well. I would, before planning for the reverse sural, I would like to Doppler the dominant perforator that is 5 centimeters above the medial malleolus. And if I find, since the peripheral vascularity is intact, and if I find a good,
Why can I stop you there? Why is
yes,
it
yes.
above the medial malleolus for a reverse sural? Is that the vessel that you're interested in?
Basically, it's
What's
based on
the
the
basis for the RSA?
medial branch of medial sural artery, sir. So the medial branch of the sural artery is what we would.
You're
That's what we
talking
would.
about a reverse sural artery.
Yes, sir.
You still want to base it on the medial side of the leg and not the lateral side along with the small saphenous vein and the sural nerve?
Yes, lateral aspect. Yes, sir. I think. Yes, the lateral aspect would lateral. Sir, sorry, lateral.
Yeah.
It will be 5
That
centimeters above the
still
lateral
will be
malleolus,
nice if
so
you're
that it will
planning a
take.
propeller.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so this you want a flap base coming from the lateral malleolus, but you could
Lateral
still
malleolus.
use the pedicle and get towards the medial side.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so your diagrams there have to be changed appropriately. You should show the, that's why I asked whether it was the big toe that you were showing or the little toe.
Yes, sir. My mistake, sir. That was lateral side is where we plan this thing.
Okay, fair enough. Sure. Right. So you'll just have to change where the base of your pedicle is. It's on the
Yes, sir.
outer side between the TA and the lateral malleolus. That's where the vessel runs, and is the perforator coming from the peroneal into the sural artery that you're interested in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and
Yes, sir.
usually don't get it down right up to 5 centimeters. It's okay that my perforator may be there, but if you can get it
Yes, sir.
slightly higher up, aiming to get your flap from the middle third of the leg, it would be more robust, because any further perforator, further proximal will also be supplying your flap, right? You don't need to
Yes, sir.
necessarily need to take it down till the distalmost perforator. If you have enough pedicle length for your defect, you could probably get your flap from the middle third, because if you take your flap from the lower component, you're more likely to expose the TA there, which is not going to be a very suitable bed for grafting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you like to
Yes, sir.
take your flapper from an area which doesn't actually expose the gastroc muscle forming into the tendon. That area
Yes, sir.
you would like to keep it near the, if suppose I think of it like a cricket bat or a shuttle thing,
Yes, sir.
the handle component of it you can even primarily close, right, so that your tendon will be covered rather than just rely on paratinum.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So aim to keep your flap in the middle third. That would be a good place to harvest the skin paddle of your flap.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my second option would be peroneus brevis muscle flap. That's based that's raised from the lateral aspect of the leg. So the incision is made, the axis of the fibula is marked first, and 1 centimeter behind that would a vertical incision is made, and the peroneus brevis muscle usually lies it lies deep to the peroneus longus tendon, while raising the flap, the superficial peroneal nerve should be taken care of. and the muscle is raised from the fibula in the proximal to distal manner. The most constant perforator would be approximately 6 to 8 centimeters from the lateral malleolus. So I would raise it up to there, and then rotate it from that point. I would make an incision with the for the connecting bridge between the muscle flap and the defect, so that I can insert the muscle into the defect, and put a skin graft over the muscle flap.
Sure.
My third option would be a propeller flap based on the posterior tibial artery perforators. So I would again do the planning in reverse. There are two sets of perforators, approximately 6 to 8 centimeters and 10 to 12 centimeters from the medial malleolus is where the most reliable perforators are. It would be ideal to base it on the distalmost, approximately 6 centimeters from the medial malleolus. So the initial incision is after the planning and marking of the flap. The initial incision is made on the anterior aspect, and in the subfacial plane, the flap is raised, and the perforator is identified approximately 6 to 8 centimeters from the medial malleolus. Once the flap is raised, either the best option would be to incise the skin bridge and insert the flap into the defect. And the skin graft would be needed to close the donor site.
Let's assume you have two perforators. Yeah, Dr. Sandeep, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, sir.
No, I thought you said.
No. It's
okay. No, suppose you have two perforators close
Yes.
by. Okay. Obviously, from the flap pivoting point of view, you'd like the perforator closer to your defect. Okay,
Yes,
but
sir.
let's assume you have two, and for the sake of argument, both of them are not sort of very far away from each other. One closer to the defect seems slightly smaller, other slightly bigger. You're unsure as to which one to choose. Is there any way you can decide?
You can always dissect the perforator through to the origin itself, sir, to identify which one would be the most reliable perforator. This would also increase the mobility.
You let's say even Dopplered it, both of them sort of equivocal. It sounds little bit, someone does it, one sounds better, the other sounds better. Both of them have couple of venae comitante. You want to be absolutely sure that any one perforator that you use will be able to supply your entire flap.
You can temporarily clamp one of the perforators, and you can check which one would perfuse better.
Yeah, perfect. Sure. Okay. Right. Okay.
So,
is this? I presume I didn't catch that quite well. Is this person male, female?
A male, sir, male, 20-year-old male.
Okay. Let's assume, okay, males also are quite cosmetically aware now. Let's assume they want the minimum amount of scarring and for this wound to be healed. He doesn't want additional scarring on the leg and stuff more than can be avoided. All of this will have an incision going up from the defect into the leg, right? Or if it's a lady, for example, reverse sural will be fairly bulky and will cause a contour defect there. They want a very aesthetic reconstruction.
So you can always do a free flap reconstruction of either a free muscle flap or a free fasciocutaneous flap reconstruction to cover the defect.
Okay, which would you choose?
So in this particular area, you can do a thin ALT flap to cover the defect. But if they're really worried about the donor site, then probably a gracilis, free gracilis muscle flap. The donor site scar also will be hidden on the medial aspect of the thigh.
Okay. Suppose they don't want that scar also, and they don't want an SSG on that leg. They want even better.
You can always do a free groin flap, which would provide thin skin. So.
Okay.
The donor site will also be hidden in the groin area.
Sure. Compared to an ALT or a gracilis, what are the plus points you've said, major drawbacks, let's say, of a groin? Why did you offer it last?
So the pedicle is going to be the advantage would be that it's going to be thin skin and wouldn't provide too much bulk to the area. For him to wear his shoe, it wouldn't be a problem because it's not a very bulky flap. Wouldn't need a second sitting of thinning. The problem would be that the pedicle is really small and higher chances of failure because of the size of the pedicle.
And anatomy wise, which is more liable, let's say a gracilis pedicle compared to this?
The superficial circumflex iliac artery pedicle is much tinier. Sir.
Okay. And the venous drainage anatomy is sometimes a little bit more variable as well.
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
Okay. Sure. Right. And let's assume this TA won't come for direct repair.
Yes. Sir.
There's some edges are sloughy and doesn't come for closure. And you said it's more than 50% of the TA is injured, right?
Yes. Sir.
Okay. So what are the options you have? You need to provide soft tissue cover. You need to sort out the TA injury. How would you? What are the possibilities you have?
So if I'm if the patient is willing for a free flap cover, and I'm doing an ALT flap, I can harvest the fascia lata as a graft, and I can use it to bridge the defect.
Okay, let's assume you're doing your first choice RSA.
Yes, sir. So
you're not doing a free flap. You're doing an RSA, but there's more than 50% loss, which you can't directly repair.
So I would harvest a fascia lata to repair the tendo Achilles separately and do the RSA on top of that.
Anything available locally? Let's assume there was more substance loss there.
So the plantaris tendon would be very tiny for the tendo Achilles reconstruction.
Okay, you could use multiple segments of that. Fascia lata is also thin. You don't necessarily need it as one segment.
Yes. Yes.
Any way of using the inherent tendo Achilles itself there to bridge this?
So we can we can make a tenotomy a little above, closer to the muscular tendinous junction, so that we can increase the reach to bridge the defect.
Sure.
A partial tenotomy, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like a lengthening, more like a lengthening.
Lengthening, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could sometimes not if you're using an RSA, but otherwise if the segmental loss, you can flip down like a turn down component of your tendo Achilles for reinforcing. Some of these in not in an open wound, but in a TA rupture. There are options where you can do a turn plastic. Tongue shape bit of your TA can be used distally based to reconstruct the loss. Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. If you reconstruct the TA,
Yes,
and
sir.
you've done your soft tissue cover, what position
Yes.
would you keep the ankle in? How would you immobilize? If so, in what position? And when would you start getting them to move it? What's your rehab protocol going to be?
So I would use a dorsal slab with the foot and plantar flexion, an above knee dorsal slab, sir. This I would use for the first 4 to 6 weeks, following which the patient should be a weight-bearing slab with with gradual decrease in the plantar flexion, slowly progressing into the neutral position. They use wedges,
Yeah.
and the wedges are reduced sequentially to reduce the plantar flexion over time, sir, once the tendo Achilles heals.
Okay.
And this has to be done for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. When do you think he'll be ready for uh, unprotected, resisted flexion of the ankle? Literally running, going up and down steps and stuff. How long will it take for that tendon to regain enough strength for those kind of weight bearing activities without a splint to go up on his tiptoes?
So mild weight-bearing activities without the splint can be started approximately 3 months after the procedure, sir. But complete weight-bearing will take a minimum 6 months for him to start aggressive weight-bearing, like running or.
Okay. What if the tendo Achilles was injured right at its calcaneal insertion?
So then you would have to drill across the calcaneum and probably suture it through the calcaneum itself, sir. Like a tenodesis.
Okay. Any other ways of dealing with it? Perhaps not in an open injury setting. Let's say closed avulsion. That's very common, right? Sometimes you have a thin flake of calcaneum coming off, or sometimes it's right at the TA insertion, closed injury.
Yes. So if there's a calcaneal chip avulsion, then that has to
Sometimes
be
there is, yeah, if there's a substantial chip, then you can reinsert that back.
repositioned.
You
Yes.
can fix this back.
Yes, sir.
Any other way other than, yes, I agree, you could drill. Any other devices that especially arthroscopic surgeons use a lot of it to insert tendon onto bone?
I'm not really sure about the device, sir.
Okay, they have suture anchors, Mitec anchor, Arthretex suture anchors, where we basically just like a headless screw which has a loop on top through which you can use a fiber wire or Ethibond. You can
Yes.
put it into the calcaneum. You have various sizes of those, and you can use the Ethibond or Arthretic wire to take bites on the tendon.
Okay, sir.
Those are called suture anchors.
So, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Sure. Fine. So in this particular case, just tell us again what your final plan is for this patient.
So initial tendo Achilles repair. In this particular patient, we could do a primary repair of the. I mean, we could suture
What kind of suturing will you use on the TA?
The locking sutures. They've described something called as Kraskov sutures, and you can use Kessler's.
How many strands?
So at least two would be preferable, sir.
Okay. Two is what we would normally use.
Yes.
Okay. Previously. Now even for flexor tendons, how much is the minimum recommended? Zone 2?
Flexor tendon zone 2. Sir, a single core Kessler for a flexor interval.
Can't have how many strands?
A 2 strands, sir.
Okay. Is that the current accepted norm?
I'm not really sure about that, sir.
Usually we say at least now minimum of 4 strands. Okay. There are other Tang and others which want to use 6 and 8, but you have to remember that the more strands you use, the more bulk you leave behind also. But definitely in the TA, 2 strands I think would be inadequate. And what suture material would you normally use?
So non-absorbable sutures like Ethibond or Prolene is what I would use.
Size?
So 2-0 because it's a partial injury. I would use 2-0 because the space also would be restricted.
Sure. Okay. Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dr. Sandeep? Anything else that you want to?
I think you have covered more or less the entire questions. I think range of questions for such a case. I don't have anything further to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think Shravan, you have done pretty well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks a lot, Dr. Satish, Dr. Malini.
Pleasure.
Dr. Malini actually is still here. It was very good to see a pathologist sitting and listening to our discussions. So thanks a lot because
enamored by the work that you all do. So much of detailing. I didn't know there's so much of detailing that goes into a flap repair. I thought you just take the flap, put it in, that's it. Nice case, Dr.
Yeah.